When did I decide to become a designer? That's a great question. I feel like I've always grown up in a family of artists. My dad, my grandpa, cousins, all of them are really into art. And so I don't know if it's genetic, I don't know if it's just being around them a lot, but from a very young age, I was very into art, illustration. I wouldn't say until maybe high school, sophomore, junior year, that I really understand fashion and streetwear and sneakers. And I think that being in that culture and like that sparked that for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about this collection? Like, why the name, why the pieces, why the models?
Yeah, for sure. So Turtle Collective as a brand started in 2020. And so just been going with it, making things as I go. But I felt like this specific collection is definitely a start to leaning more towards, I think, what I originally visioned it back in 2020. I remember last year I was in New York with a homie of mine, Pharrell. If you're out there in the world, he's in like Germany now. Anyway, if he's there, I miss you, bro. But I remember being on the train and we were talking about this idea of like third lives and how a lot of my clothing, I live by this like third life quote unquote rule where factory makes the clothing, gets sent out, you wear it, cool, that's the first life. Then it gets thrifted or it gets thrown away, it gets donated, and it lives in a thrift store, or it lives in somebody's cabinet, whatever the case is. That's the second life. This is like the third life, me taking it, repurposing it, and now it's as what you see here. So I've always been playing with that idea, and then I kind of kept going with it. Okay, well, third life. What else besides just making clothing cool? Like, how can I turn that into something else? Turned into a life, your third life, and like thinking about it as your own personal life outside of clothing. What is something that maybe you've done before in your previous life, quote unquote, that you want to kind of either turn back from or make new about yourself? And so I was trying to find a way to show that through clothing, and then this idea of Nomads came in. A group of people who are traveling, they don't necessarily belong in any sort of way, but they're figuring it out. And I think that's such a powerful thing when it comes to our own lives, about how can we be in this world, but not of it, as the Bible talks about, you know? And how can we take these lives that we live and repurpose them for new, finding like-minded individuals who may not belong in a certain area, but kind of want to come together to make something new.
Man, that was such a great answer. Let's give a round of applause for that. That was beautiful. It kind of segues perfectly into my next question, which is, how does your relationship with Jesus affect the way that you create, but also the way that you operate in the fashion world?
Oh, everything. It changes everything. I mean, I guess a better question is, what doesn't it do, you know? I think it's crazy looking at how many people are in this room right now to show the power of God and how he can connect people through just one person, you know? I think especially maybe like last year or end of last year, earlier this year, I think I've started to understand like it's hard being a Christian in fashion, you know? And I think the beauty of it though is, I think that's the point. I think it's interesting to look at like how can we allow our faith to shine? I think something I'm trying to get at is like, how can I tell stories that more inspire people to rethink themselves? Sort of how God's sort of helped me through this brand. It's like, what am I learning about myself? And how can I encourage people to do the same?
Man, that was also a beautiful answer. Let's give a hand. I know you mentioned this a little earlier, but can you share about Turtle, the birth of it, the like why the name, like inspiration behind it, all of that?
Definitely. And it's funny. I feel like if you were to ask me like even a month ago what this brand meant, I would have a different answer. But so originally, I have been working with a friend of mine doing some brand stuff back in like 2019. And that was when I really was like, oh, I like clothing brands. I always had an idea of making a brand, but I was like, oh, I kind of like doing that. And so after that, I kind of branched off, did my own thing, started Turtle during 2020, I literally was like painting on clothes, just random stuff. All my Jefferson people, I used the ID industrial design studio that's downstairs. That was my very first ever like photo shoot of anything. It was in a small little room. And so I just fell in love with like making quote unquote art pieces, but like using fabric and paint and stitches as the medium, as the paintbrush, if you will. And so turtle kind of comes from this idea of one, slow fashion. Turtles are slow. They're very sort of small animals. But I thought about it of like, there's always this thing in film and media and like books about turtles being like a wiser animal. They're slow, but they're wise, and they're patient with how they do things. And so I even thought about this brand and like even the state of fashion. We talk about slow fashion and how can we be more sustainable with the clothing we make. And part of it is taking our time, being a bit slower in a world that's so focused on fast. I need it tomorrow, I need it now. But how can we like really craft, take a minute to like pause and admire, or not even admire, but just value something that takes time to make. You can't get it right away. So that's the premise of the brand for sure.
No, that's so beautiful. I think even looking at these pieces, like you can tell that this is not just like a shirt or a pair of pants. This is like a work of art, and I think that's so beautiful. It takes a really special mind to like create something so unique that has such like power and beauty behind it.
Thank you.
So kudos to you. That is so beautiful. So everyone is gonna go home tonight, and they're gonna remember bits and pieces about this show. What is one thing that you want them to walk away remembering from this night?
Only one?
Only one.
First of all, thank y'all again for coming out. Oh, Kyle, what's up, bro? Sorry. I think if I were to say anything, I think something that, and this is kind of going into where the collective part of the brand comes from. I have a vision for this brand, to be outside of just me eventually. And so with that, I encourage people to like dive into a community. If I'm your first stop, then let me be the first stop, but I don't want today to be just about me. I want it to be about art and about connecting and creating and getting inspired to go out and do your own thing, That's how I've gotten here, being inspired by other people and doing my own thing. So if you don't know the person to the right or left of you, leave with their number, their Instagram, LinkedIn, email, But yeah, let's make this about community.
So good. Let's give Terry a round of applause. These answers are so great. We're going to open up a time for you guys to ask questions. So there's going to be a mic on a stand right here. And I know it's so awkward being the first one to walk forward. But if you have a question for Terry, now is the time to ask. Like this is the whole point of the night is to, yes, see his pieces, but also to hear his heart behind it. So if you have questions that you want to know the answer to, ask right now. Be bold.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Now, this is my brother-owns. Now, what I really want to say, because, you inspire me, brother.
Oh, I do.
But I want to know, what was, at least going into this, like, what was your biggest inspiration or, like, driving motive behind wanting to do what you wanted to do? Know what I mean?
With this collection?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can start with that, but then just fashion in general. You know what I mean? And like, what really pushed you to go into this? 'Cause I know you wanted to do just like art before, but like, why fashion exactly?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start boldly. I think what got me into because originally I was just arts. I wasn't in school for like industrial design. I wanted to make shoes, switch to fashion. I don't know, something about, like I talk about this wearable art thing. I think it's something about the idea that like, because I was an art student in high school, I painted, but something about being able to wear that and like walk around and be like, yo, this is me. I don't know, it spoke to me. And I think fashion helped me all the interests I had, I was able to do it in kind of one field. This collection specifically, I don't know, a lot of things. I was looking at, I think it started with music, which is funny. I've been getting into music a lot lately, and this collection kind of started listening to music first. A lot of like Earl Sweatshirt, a lot of Tyler, a lot of Navy Blue, if anybody knows those. A lot of the artists that are like more abstract, quote unquote, hip hop, but like I love what they do because they take soul samples, 70s, 80s, and like distort it like crazy. And so I'm like, what if I took clothes and just distorted them like crazy? Yeah, and it just kind of went from there. Featuring my dad saying beautiful.
So good. Who's next? Let's keep these questions going. Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
My question isn't nearly as profound as the last one, but are these one-of-a-kind pieces? Or can we find them, on you have a website or?
So yes and no. Some of these pieces are like purely one of one. Ask me what piece that is, I'll let you know. Because I feel like that can change depending on who I say it to. But so yeah, majority are one of one in the sense of I'm making each one from scratch for sure. Oh yeah, the merch table is looking at me. Yeah, go in the back, check out the merch table. That's where all the stuff is. But each one definitely is individual in its own piece. I might make like, for example, Virginia, if you want to step out, there's the black skirt. Like that is its idea, but each one won't be the same because it's like I'm chopping up pants like originally for each one. So like the pocket may look different or, so in that sense, they're one of one. But you can definitely get multiples. And yeah, check out the website. It's got everything on there. If you see anything tonight that you are like, oh, I want this in my size, it's not here, we can get that going. If you want like a custom thing, we can also talk about that. But yeah.
Sweet. Great. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's good, bro. As you should.
I have a question about the production side of this whole process, right? So we can clearly see that every piece is unique in terms of what materials you pick out, what materials you use, so on and so forth. So how does the resourceful part of you and this third life idea reflect how it shapes the silhouette and the whole design of each and every piece?
That's a great question, man. I think that's the beauty of it, because I think there's something to giving new life doesn't necessarily mean it's the same, but it's new now. It's like, how can we truly alter what it is to give it a new life? Let's see, what's a good example? Yo, Reese, actually, Reese and then Z, all the way in the back. Can y'all step out? So I think what Z's wearing, all the way in the back, is a really great example of that. The jacket she's wearing was actually a pair of pants before, when I bought them. And I think that's this great idea of a third life. It's like, how can we completely change something? So that's what I love to do. I love to like tilt things on its head, change the silhouette, and recontextualize what it means. Now with Reese, those pants are actually made from multiple pants. And so from there, I can like take a pattern and make an original silhouette. So I'm taking like what those pants used to be and now using them to sort of reshape and create an entirely new silhouette. So I think being able to kind of patch and add where it needs to be is like the beauty of it, because you can kind of find your way and make something completely different.
Yeah. So good. So good.
I was waiting. I was surprised. I was surprised you wasn't the first one.
I was not going to say something, but talk about the work ethic. There's this idea that if you find something you love to do, it doesn't feel like work. But this is hard work. So talk about how you're inspired to push yourself past the fatigue, so forth and so on, and encourage us in that same vein.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know who that guy is. Somebody get him. He came in the back. He shouldn't be here. Yeah, I think you know, and I think the way in which I make things definitely comes with the challenge of like, yeah, it takes some time for sure. But I think what you said at the end is important, like doing what I love. I see this as my art. I see this as I go home and paint. I go home and play video games. I go home and, like, this is what I see as my version of that. There definitely are some very, very long nights, very early hours. And I think something too, also like having a process. I think over the couple of years, I've been able to like make it easier for myself for sure, and figure out a process of how to do things more efficiently without losing the original idea of it. But you know, and this can talk for any art form. I think if there's something you genuinely like really, really love, not to say that it doesn't feel like work, because it is, but you'll make the time. If it's something you genuinely really love, you'll make the time to really dive into that work, you know? Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
And it's worth it. It's worth it at the end. Melissa.
Okay, so I have a random question.
I love your outfit, by the way. It's fire.
So you were talking about fashion and like art is in your designs and it having a third life. So what about from a sustainable perspective as a creative, the scraps that don't make it to the third life? So how do you like keep it environmentally friendly but still are able to execute your designs and art?
Great question. I love that you asked that question. Yeah, and you know, I think not everything can be 100% recyclable, obviously. I think there's going to be scraps, cuts here. My mission is to, and I definitely changed what the brand in terms of sustainability looks like over the years. But I think for me, it's how can we avert as much waste from the landfill as possible. You look at like places in Chile where like there's literally a mountain. People think it's a real mountain, but it's clothing, like it's t-shirts. And people think this is a for real mountain. Like that's crazy. But with this, I think, and this is something I even challenged myself on, it's like, okay, Tommy, for example, in the front row, he's got no sleeves. Where are the sleeves? I cut them off. They're gonna be used for something else at some point. And I'm pretty sure that like the jeans that he's got on, the white and like the blue, are probably on like that skirt down there somewhere. So I love to repurpose wherever I can. Like literally I'll have like a giant bin. And before I grab a new pair to chop up, I'm like, wait. I got this bin. So what can I take from this bin? And like I literally try to use it as much as I can. And so I have like little pieces. I'm like, okay, I can get rid of this, you know? So I definitely challenged myself on that to be like, how much can I reuse before I move on to the next thing? Yeah. Oh.
Let's go, bro. All right, so I got a quick question. So, in a world where patience is low and demand is high, where do you see the future of your brand? And yeah.
I love you, bro. Yo, this kid is 16, y'all. He's got a clothing brand, Nova Gallery. I met this kid like, 2-3 years ago, and you have genuinely inspired me to like keep going. So I gotta let that be known. Please hit him up. If y'all don't buy my stuff, buy his stuff. He's got a cool hat. It's his. Buy it. Yeah, what was your question? I'm playing. What was your question again? Yeah, that's a great question, man. I feel like I asked myself that question this morning. You know, that's the question I'm always dealing with. But I think there's something to value. I think regardless of however fast or slow you do something in fashion, people value value. People don't like to get two-timed. They don't like to get finessed. If you said you're going to make something the way you're going to make it, and it's for this price, that's what I want it for. And we talked about this actually driving here on the way. Like, if you sell a vision and you're like, yo, this is what we're working with, this is like if you really sell the idea and you give people a reason to wait and they see how valuable something is, they'll wait. At least that's what my theory is. For me, I think I definitely just want to continue like just making cool art, you know, making dope pieces that like that can do something like, you know, whether I'm not in the show all the time, but just making pieces that can create conversation, thought. Hey, wow, wait, he put the pants on the bottom, he put the pocket on the bottom. What the heck? Where did that come from? You know. And so I think for me, like in terms of where I keep going, I'm definitely just going to keep working on like how else outside of just clothing can I impact. That's something I've been thinking about. That's another thing where the collective comes in. The collective part of the brand is definitely me like looking forward and being like, how can I make this, again, outside of myself? Are there like young artists, young fashion designers, young producers, young singers, young photographers that like need a platform, you know? Because I think that's all sustainability. I think you can even wrap that up in sustainability. It's like, how do we keep things in-house? How do we encourage people to like continue to move something forward? And I think the deeper I get into that and like creating that world, that turtle world, and putting, you know, young designers a part of it, other people, giving people a reason to be like, okay, he's got something cool going on, I'll wait. I bought something, yeah, it takes a while to make it because he's gotta go down to the thrift store and then run back up here to make it. And it's a one-on-one piece, and it's like cool because I'm the one that got a pocket on the hem, you know? So yeah. Thank you for asking that question, bro. It's fire. Before you say anything, this guy right here, Alex Winch, those jacket, that vest, and the pants right there, he made the fabric for that. Talk to him about it. He's an amazing textile designer. Please, I'm actually so happy you are. I am so happy you are here, bro. Please talk to him about it as well. Yes, get his contact, work with him, please. Ask your question, sorry.
Quick question. So do you like envision a piece in your mind first and then find the other pieces that you edit, or do you like go to the thrift store and find those first and then you start sketching and cutting? Like how does that work?
That's a great question. I think yes and no again. I think there's definitely some, like a lot of this collection, if you look in that like far back wall, there's some sketches on there that kind of show my idea and like how my thought process a little bit. I think about 20% of what's on that sketch is what you see right here, because it kind of changes as I go. But I think part of it is, okay, I want to make some baggy jeans. I definitely want to add some patches on it. I saw this cool double knee idea. I'll buy something to work on that. And then there's days where I'm literally like, I have these pants, I'm gonna just add and cut and whatever. And I love that especially because it's definitely guided. I guide it, so now I'm not like spending 8 hours trying to figure out what I'm making. But I'm like, okay, this is the general idea of what I want to do. Let's have fun. And sometimes I'm like, okay, T, why did you cut that? Because I didn't think about it. But then I'm like, wait, we might have something. So then I'll kind of like, you know, I'll repair and fix where it goes until you. That's how these in the front were kind of made. I had no idea what I was going to do with those. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I did it. It's done. So yeah, it's a mix, you know.
So we can have one more question if anybody has. All right. All you.
Good, bro.
What's up, bro?
So my question, you talked earlier about how you went to school for industrial design and then decided, hey, you know what, I want to switch up and go into fashion. What type of advice / encouragement would you give any creative who's like currently in one thing, but really wants to branch out creatively, do something else, but is kind of at that fork in the road?
Do it. Whatever you want to do it. Just do it. And figure out how to make it work later. First of all, Evan, thank you for coming, man. He's one of the guys that I met in my industrial design program at Jefferson, and you've been a big inspiration since, so thank you, man. Yeah, do it. Do it. I remember for me, it was funny because I always, like I said, I always had an interest in fashion, but I don't know what it was. I was like, I don't know if I want to design clothes. I don't know if I want to do that. Shoes. I want to make cool stuff, which is great. I'm not knocking it. I think we need that. But it was funny. I was at Jefferson like every freshman year when I was in. Everybody kept telling me like fashion design, and I don't know why. I can't tell you what caused them to ask to say that. But I was like, all right, God, you want me to switch, but then you got everybody telling me that I'm basically already in it. So I'm like, okay, all right, let me figure that out. This brand was a big version of that. For the longest time, I think this brand probably should have been started about 4 months before it actually was. And I think the longest time I was like, T, if you don't just start the thing and just figure it out, because I think a lot of times we can like get in our own mind of being like, oh, I don't know, I need to have money to pay for the manufacturer, I need to have money to do this, I need to da-da-da-da-da. But the truth of the matter is like, you're not gonna have that money to do anything if you don't do it. You're not gonna make any money to pay your manufacturer if you don't make money to pay the manufacturer. So I think a lot of people get in our, and I'm speaking for myself, I think we get in our own heads a lot as creatives to try and do the perfect thing before we start. But the truth is like, yo, you gotta do it and learn as you go. I'm still learning. I'm 4 years into the brand, and I still feel like I just now kind of know what I'm doing, and I still have so much to learn. But yeah, just go for it. Just go for it. Get some mentors too. Get some people around you to be like, hey, what do you think about this? Is this good? What advice do you have? People that have been in the shoes that you're trying to get into. Yeah, just do it. Just do it.
That was such a great last question. I admire your heart so much. Like, even throughout all of this, like, honoring the people who have come up to, like, ask questions and you sharing about them, that just speaks so much to, like, your character and the way that you just want to, it not to be about you, but to shine light on others. And I think that is so sweet. This is also incredible. Like, your pieces are conversation starters, and they are going to create such moments of connection and community and getting to hear your heart. I think I can speak for the room that it's inspiring. It's so encouraging, and it's something that I want to support. Like, someone who wants the best for others as well is like, of course you want to sow into that. So before we close up the night of the Heart Behind the Art portion, I want to thank you for creating, for being obedient in the uncertainty, in making the changes, and sharing your heart, sharing your pieces, being bold in that. Like, that is amazing. And thank you for letting Ripe Creatives and Creatives Philly get to be a part of showing that and exposing all of these people to the amazing things that you're doing.
I could just say one thing to add to that. Well, thank you, first of all. I really appreciate that. I want to thank you. I want to thank Scott. I want to thank Story Factory. I want to thank Ripe Creatives, Philly Creatives. I've known y'all for like a couple of years now, and I think it's amazing that the first version of this that I do is with friends, with family. There's definitely something to that, so thank you.